All right, so in today's demonstration, we are still exploring masks and specifically masks for effects for type. And so last week we explored how to create a mask effect with type. And I have created this type that's supposed to look like it's rising from water. And, you know, if you'll remember what allows that to happen is that we created, I'll open up my type layer so you can see what's going on. We use the pen tool to draw directly on the type layer, and that creates a mask. And it works as a mask if you make sure that you actually click the mask button in the control bar at the top. If not, you'll just create a shape on that layer. So, like a visible, visual element of a shape. So here's my path. Wait a minute. So this is the path, if you'll remember, that I created using the pen tool. I even converted some of these anchor points so that we could play around with animating the path of the mask as well to make it look like the water or the type is kind of bobbing in and out of the water. So that's what we explored on Thursday. We also explored animated plugins for type, and so we applied an animated effect or plug-in that was called, I think, Ocean Tide. And so that gave us that animated fluid kind of effect toward the type or on the type. And we also looked at how to adjust the parameters for that animation. So we adjusted things like the frequency and of the motion, and were able to get it to a speed that seemed to match what's going on in the background better. So if you remember at first, it was real wavy, in and out type, but we kind of toned it down a little bit. The one thing that I would like to also kind of improve with this example is that the type is supposed to look like it's rising up from the water, but its plane is different from the water. So maybe we want to kind of change the perspective of the type slightly. And I want to show you how you can do that with type. So especially type that's been handled the way this type has been handled, with effects applied to it and a mask that's also animated on that same type layer. Those are a lot of different properties that have been animated that the type layer has to keep track of if we were to put that in 3D mode and try to turn it. So let me just show you what happens if we do it with it just at the level of type. And this is going to introduce you guys to the 3D mode function in Adobe After Effects. But right above your layer window, you should see a set of little icons. These are all buttons that do different things. There's one that has a three-dimensional looking cube and a box underneath that. If you click that box, look what happens to my type. It's still animated. It's still moving the way it's supposed to, but the mask is no longer visible. So I've lost that masking effect. So if I wanted to try and change the perspective, I could, but I'm still not going to have that masking effect. So here's how we work around that. I'm going to create a brand new composition. Let me see if I can do this with my pen. Sometimes I feel like it's better if I can point things out on the board, because some of these icons are so small, and maybe trying to follow my arrow is not the easiest way to see what I'm doing. So if I stand up and actually point to things, it might be helpful. So what you want to do is you want to create, your animated scene, and once you have it the way you want it to look and you're ready to change that perspective, then you want to package it up as a composition. So I'm just going to create a brand new composition. And I'll call it just perspective, so I'll know that that's what I did to it. And so there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my type layer. So that's the layer where everything has been animated. And I'm going to just copy that, Command-C, and go to my new layer, or my new composition, and I'm just going to paste that in. So now all we have is the type, and when I play it, you'll see it come up, and it still has its mask effect, and it still has the animated effect. It's just against a blank background. Okay, and so really what we've done is we've just put all those animated elements into the composition. Now we're going to bring that composition back into the previous scene with the video file in the background. So let's go back to that. And I'm just going to turn this original layer off that has all the animated elements. And I'm going to bring in the new composition for perspective. And then I'm going to put it in 3D mode. And change its direction so that it looks like it's coming up from under the water a little better. So what allowed us to do that is that now when we put it in 3D mode, it just sees that composition as an object. It doesn't care what's going on inside of it. It's just letting that content play out the way it's supposed to. But it's packaged up in a way where now we can just handle it as a single object and change its perspective. So there'll be other times, in fact, we'll have more opportunities to explore this idea again, or this method again, especially in the next module. So there'll be times when you need, when you have something that's fairly complex or has several layers to its animated features, and then you want to do something like that, you'll find really quickly that things just kind of fall apart as soon as you try to rotate it or do something with it. And so that will require you to have to package it up in a way so that it can just be handled as kind of like a grouped object, or it just makes it easier to work with. So I got some more cool stuff to show you all about masks. I want to show you a little trick, and this can be really applied to anything, but we're going to apply it to type, where we're going to make the type look like it's breaking apart, and just piece by piece, parts of the letters just chipping off and changing position and rotating and falling to the ground. And so that is going to be another exploration in using masks. So for this part of the demonstration, we can just create a brand new composition, and we're just going to create a simple word. You can type whatever you want to type. I'm probably going to type the word break. It's just kind of my style, how I do things. So I'm going to turn off these other compositions that I don't need at the moment. Okay, so here we go. So I have a brand new composition, and I'm going to use my type tool, and I'm just going to come over here and type the word break. You can make it whatever color you want. It's entirely up to you. I think I'm going to go red this time. Okay, so how this works, let me make sure I don't jumble this up as I try and explain it. We will be working from what I call a master layer. So this first typing of the word break, and there's two different ways you could do this. Right now we're going to explore it at the level of type. but you can also do this with a composition as well. So if I were to create a composition and type this word break in there, and then, create a, create layers of that same composition, in the layers window, it would really work the same way. But I'm going to start with the type approach first. So again, we're going to create a mask. So to do that, you want to select the layer that you want to create the mask on, and then you want to make sure that you are in mask mode. Move this out of the way. I'm going to get the, and I'm also using the pen tool to create my mask. And where is my pen tool?
Click that feather.
Thank you. And so now when you click the drawing tool, you should be able to see the toggle between tool creates shape or tool creates mask. So make sure you have the tool creates mask feature checked. And I'm going to increase my font size just a little bit.
What happens if it's grayed out? It's not letting you choose it.
Let me come take a look and see how you have things selected. Do you have the pen tool selected?
Yeah. The Roto Bezier works.
Mm-hmm.
So the difference is if you're clicking on a layer and then you select it, it will do the mask, and then if you are not selecting the layer, it will do the creation.
Yeah. I just took that step out for you. Okay. So I want to make it look like as this timeline plays out, I want this word to look like it's just kind of cracking apart and falling apart and breaking, and the pieces just kind of falling to the ground. So I'm going to create a mask on this base layer. That's what we'll call that. And I'm going to start with the pen tool. Zoom in a little bit so you can see better how I'm drawing this. And there's really no right or wrong way. Just get in there and experiment. So I'm going to start with creating like some little jaggedy, things that look like cracks and tears. And so there's my mask. I'm going to open this up. And I want this to actually subtract. All right, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this layer. So I'm going to select this layer and press Command D to duplicate it. Wait a minute, undo that. Before we do that, let's create another mask. Let's see, subtracting that. Now I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to duplicate it a couple times. So on this, notice how the mask colors correspond with the mask path outline. So these are going to be added back in. And this one, I think I'm just going to delete because I already have it on the third duplicate of that, and we only need one mask on each layer. So when I duplicated it, it duplicated both of those masks. And so, delete that one. And I'm going to add this one back in. All right, so let's just experiment with these two. So remember, this is our master layer. So every time we create a new mask, it needs to be on this base layer. Then you'll duplicate it, get rid of the other masks, and keep the one that should correspond with that particular mask that you're trying to work with. So this is essentially what we have. If I turn these off. On this first break layer, we have two masks that have been created, and they're both in subtract mode. Okay, so it's not showing that part of the word. All right. But when we duplicated these,
and why did we do that?
well, so when we duplicated these, we kept the mask for, you want to think about, each individual mask that you're making. So delete the rest and keep the one that you want to keep for that letter character, and set it to add. For some reason, it's not showing it. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, I didn't have the visibility on, that's why I couldn't see them. So these are set to add. So if I turn those off, then you can see the fact that it's empty behind that. I'm not saying that very well. All right, so each of these should be set to add. And that's set to add. And then when you turn them off, you can see that all we can see now is this level of break with the masks that are set to subtract. So it's going to be these layers that are actually animated. Does that make sense? Let me just demonstrate. So I'm going to start with the second layer. We'll just do it layer by layer. So here's this mask right here, and it's set to add. So that's why we can see it on this layer. Okay. When I turn this layer off, then what we're seeing is how the word break looks on this layer with the settings for these masks, which is subtract. So it's not letting us see the content, it's masking it. So I'm going to go back and turn this layer back on so we can see it again. And I'm going to go to the transform properties. And I'm going to set up some keyframes for the position and the rotation for where for its starting point. So I'm going to set the stopwatch for the position and the rotation. Let me zoom out so you can see the big picture a little better. And then I'm going to bring my playhead out to like maybe the first second mark. And I'll just use these position parameters to move that type down. One thing that I forgot to do is to set the anchor point for the rotation, because I don't want it to rotate like that. So I can fix that really fast. I'm going to take out those keyframes really quick before I do that. I'm going to use this pan behind anchor point tool. And I'm going to move this anchor point and place it just where I want that rotation point to be on that mask. And now I'm ready to set my position and rotation keyframes. Then I'll move the playhead out to about the first second mark, move the position of that piece of the letter, and the rotation. Now, right now, it just falls straight down. If I bring my playhead back to the beginning, boom, that's all it does. So if you want to add some curvature to it, so that it kind of arcs out as it falls, then you can go back and you can edit that path for the positioning. But remember, you'll probably have to convert the vertices because they start out, I think, as corner vertices. So they just, they just create straight line segments. So to get those curved line segments, you need to release those directional handles, and you'll do that through that Convert Anchor Point tool. And then you'll switch to this selection tool to, continue to edit your path. All right, so I'm going to work through a second one. Did that make sense to you guys, how we did that? I'm going to do it again. Thank God we have 3 more letters to do, right? Or 4? Okay, so I'm going to animate the second one. So remember, I just made copies of this master layer. All right down here on break. And so the reason why I'm creating my masks from this master layer is because I need them all to live on this layer so that at the end of the composition, it will all look broken. Does that make sense? So that's why we're copying and pasting that and then just taking out what we don't need and making modifications to what we do need. So let's see, we've got 2 things animated now. Oh, I didn't animate the second one. So to animate this second one, I'm going to turn this visibility back on. So I had it off for a minute, so now it's back on. So now you can see the mask for the letter R. I'm going to open that up, and you can see that the mask color indicator is even matching up to the mask hash outline. So we know we're in the right place. And it's set to add, that's what we want. So out of that whole word, break, all it's letting us see is the base of this R. And when we move it and rotate it, it's really the whole word that's being masked that's also rotating with it. You just don't see it. Because the only thing we can see is what's inside that mask. So now I'm going to go to transform. All right. And then remember, before we start to move it and rotate, especially before the rotation, we've got to set that anchor point so that we can rotate around that shape instead of from somewhere way out here. So you want to get your pan behind tool, which is right here, and you want to grab that anchor point and move it over and place it just wherever you want inside that mask area. Wherever you think that's going to be a good rotation point, that's where you need to put it. And now we're all set to animate this second letter, or the mask of this second letter. So what I'm going to do, I don't want them all to just fall at the same time. I'm sorry, I keep stepping in front of everything. So I don't want them all to just go all at the same time. We want them to all kind of fall separately, And so I'm going to move my playhead out and see where that action kind of stops, or where in that process I want the second letter to start falling. Maybe right about here. And I might have it arc in the opposite direction, just to make it a little more interesting. So that's probably where my keyframes are going to be for position and rotation. So we need to get our keyframe set up. That's going to be the starting place. And it's not going to start to move until the second place in the timeline. Now we're going to move our playhead out. Come out to, I don't know, maybe... Oh, that was before the second mark. Doesn't matter. Anyway, just bring it out to where you think you want that motion to stop. And then set the object. Where you want it. So it just falls in a straight line right now. But remember, we're going to come back and edit that motion path. Still forgot to, still somehow did not move my anchor point to that type. Probably just so busy talking. So I'm going to use this tool right here. Convert that, if it'll let me. Bow it out that way. and then I can use this tool, because that tool is really just for converting, so don't edit with that tool. If you want to edit and kind of fine tune, come back and get that selection tool. So we got 2 letters that fall. All right. Any questions so far? Are you following along or just watching?
I didn't understand this for a second. But now I get it.
You get it? Yeah, I know. It's you gotta.
It's futile for me to follow along.
It is.
I
You
just
just rather
rather
watch and then go back. Yeah, that's fine. No problem. So, I'm going to work through these other 3 and get some more practice. How are you doing with it? You're going to go back and watch? Okay. Well, let me walk through this at least 3 more times since we had 3 more letters. So, I'm going to duplicate this layer. I have to go over here to do it. There we go. Now, when I duplicate it, here's what happens. So you gotta kind of clean it up a little bit. You open masks. And I've already got 2 masks in here that I don't need, so I can just delete those. Or you might just be able to, no, there's no visibility button, so I would just delete them. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and draw my mask on there. So I'll use the pen tool, and maybe I'll break up the top part of this letter. And where's my little button to subtract it or to add it? Let me do this again. There we go. So I want to subtract it. Or no, I want to add it. And I'll just delete these. So I only need 1 mask on this layer. What's the next thing I need to do? Anybody tell me? Before I start to rotate it and change its position. There's one really important thing to do for the rotation. Huh? Not yet. Yep. Move the anchor point. The rotation point. So I'm going to put it right in the middle of that. And now I'm going to determine where that next falling piece needs to be, or when that needs to start to happen. So maybe right now at this place in the timeline. So I will go to my transformation properties, and I'm going to set keyframes for position and rotation. And I need to zoom out so I can see what's going on. And now I will start that rotation process. So I'll just change the position, drop it down. It looks like I have something switched on in the background that I need to turn off. There's the rotation. And then I want to convert those vertices so that they kind of arc out. So on my master layer, I must have deleted that off the master layer. There we go. Okay, anybody following along or just kind of testing it out? Hey, Joey. Good, how you doing?
Is this your regular?
This is my regular class. Y'all, this is Joey Travolta. He's,
Hey guys, how you doing?
he's
Rawson?
the instructor and main owner, leader of Inclusion Films. He's teaching the film camp here this week.
Who, has any of these students ever gotten detention? Okay, good, that's a good
Yeah,
sign.
they're a good
You guys
crowd.
are doing great.
Yeah.
Is this all animation?
It's visual effects.
All visual?
Yeah, so they're learning about Adobe After Effects.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, cool, well, nice to meet y'all.
Everything going okay over there?
Yeah, we just, we had to do 2 makeup, interviews, but we got.
And now you're all done with them.
Yeah, but we're doing all the pitches together with an audience.
That's what I heard. Yeah. I was gonna try to pop over and see them.
All right,
I don't know if we'll make it over there or not.
I'm just-
So has anybody tried this out yet? Go ahead and try it. Don't be afraid. Try it out. It's very repetitive. So it seems like there's quite a few steps. But
Nice to meet y'all.
you see, Joey. So it's very repetitive, which kind of makes it good for practice because you're doing the same thing over and over. So where are those? Those link files, double click on that. Should open the file directory. Now, do you know which files that these are? Go look for those files, and when you click on them, it'll make you make those links. How's it going? Making sense? Alright. Yeah, yeah, pull it all the way to the beginning. Except this doesn't quite match up with that.
So what?
This shape doesn't quite match up to that. To this, to cover up break for the E.
Are you saying this shape
Mhm.
needs to cover more of the east?
Well, it
instead of
just,
east?
let me see. Maybe I'm just looking at that. Have you animated those yet?
This is the first one.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is it's just not coming out right. But your the edges don't match up. So it should look like just literally a part of the letter coming off. So like if you look at these, it's like it looks like part of the letter is coming off. If you see down here, you can see the window. It's actually the whole word is tilting. So it's not really breaking the word up. It's just a mask. And you can see the bounding box for the word itself right there. And so right now, yours looks like a shape that's over the type. But it doesn't look like it's part of the type breaking away.
You're saying it's like on top.
Yeah, it just looks like a shape that's on top of it.
That shape layer. Oh, I forgot to click on the duplicate.
Probably, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you are. You'll get it. All right, so I'm going to go through go through two more. So I'm going to create a mask that's going to make this letter A look like it's falling apart. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and create the mask on the master layer, okay? Because the master layer, it has to have a record of all of the masks in order to have that effect, where after all of these mask layers fall, then you see subtracted spaces in the word that's left behind. So that's what's going on this base layer here, okay? The master layer, that's what I call it. And so every time we create a new mask, at least I do, I create it on this master layer because it's got to have the exact same masks that these duplicated layers end up having so that everything matches up correctly. And then I duplicate this layer and I delete all the masks that I don't need. I just keep the one that I need for that one letter. That's it. And then I toggle, subtract, and add so that on one layer, it's subtracting, it's hiding that content. And on the new layers, it's adding it, but only in that little mask space. And so that's what makes it look like that whole word is has come back together or falling apart. So I'm going to I'm going to create my mask on the master layer with the pen tool. Got to zoom in so I can see what I'm doing. I say I need a bigger screen. I mean, that's a pretty big screen up there, but I would still manage to run out of room somehow. All right, so I've got my pen tool. Now notice that I'm creating the original mask on the original layer. So I'm just going to come in here and, let's break out the middle of this. All right, and then we're going to set this to subtract. Because remember, that's how it has to look at the end. Now don't be confused because you can still see these letter forms in these other mask paths. What you're seeing is the visibility of that content on their own individual layers. So if I turn these layers off, you'll see that they're all missing parts as well on that master layer because they're all set to subtract. All right, now the next step is after you've created that path for your mask, then you want to duplicate this layer, open it up, open up the masks, and so it duplicated all those masks in that master layer. But we're just going to go in and get rid of the ones that we don't need and keep the one. That's why they're all color-coded so you can tell exactly which mask is which. So I'm going to go, oops, let me do that. So I'm going to go in here and delete the ones that I don't need. So I can delete the blue one, the tan one, the pink one, and I'm going to keep the tangerine colored one because that is the one that is sitting over the A. And then one more thing that we need to do. Can anybody tell me?
Move that anchor point.
Oh my gosh, yes, that is one. That's very important. But this has to do with the visibility. We need to reset it. So before it was set to subtract, but for this new layer, this is what's going to be animated. So what do we need to set it to? We need to set it to add because we need to be able to see that. Does that make sense? Steve just shot me. It looked like, what are you doing? Removing what?
The cutout.
Yeah, so it's removed on the base layer. See, because look, I'll turn these off, And there it is. It shows us all of the masks on the base layer, and they are all set to subtract, because that's how it's supposed to look at the end of the animation, or the end of the composition. So I'm going to set this to set to add, and I need to reset my anchor point. So yes, gates. Here we go. I had the visibility off. So to do that, I'm going to go to the pan behind anchor point tool, pick up that anchor point, place it right over my shape mask, and then go to the transform properties. I'm going to move my playhead. Oh, I need to turn these other ones on so I can see what's going on. I'm going to move my playhead to get an idea of when everything else is falling. And then I'm going to set keyframes to make this fall. So I'm going to set a position keyframe and a rotation keyframe. And then I'm going to move my playhead out a little bit more and set the position, drop it, and rotate it. And I'm going to use the Convert Vertices tool to convert that path into a curved path. And so there we go. All right, and I'll do the last letter. So what do I need to do first before I can animate this letter K? What do I need to do first?
Copy the base layer.
That's true. That's the second step. So close. And I'm proud of you for remembering that. But we got to do something else to it before we copy it. If we copy it, we won't have anything that will become a mask for this letter. Remember, this master layer has to have a duplicate of every single mask that we're using in this composition.
Yeah, you need to make the mask for
That's
the
right.
touch.
Make the mask. So we're going to select that layer to make the mask. I'm going to use the pen tool. And okay, so now we have a new mask layer that's been added to the master break layer. And what do we need to do now?
Set it to subtract.
Set it to subtract. Okay. And now we copy it. So we're going to select that and I just do a Command D on my keyboard. So I don't know what your keyboard shortcut is if you're using a Windows. I'm sure it's something similar to that. And now I have a duplicate. So I'm going to, what's my next step? I got to clean house. Delete the others. We got to purge some masks. So we're going to keep that last one, which is kind of magenta color, and thank God it's not. They're awfully close together in color. So just select them and delete them. Okay. And before we animate it, what do we do?
Set it to add.
Yep, set it to add. All right. And before we start to set the keyframes for position and rotation, anchor point. Yes, because our anchor point is way out here. We don't want it, we want to have a little more control over it. So we're going to use this tool right here. You're yawning. It's making me want to yawn. Oh my gosh, you guys. Am I that boring?
No,
I'm
it's
that tired.
because I don't go to bed till like 2.
Oh.
Woke up at 5 this morning after going to bed at 2. I don't really understand.
You're really I woke up at 5 this morning because my kitty cat woke me up. She likes to eat at 5 a.m. Give her food and then go right back to sleep. All right, so I've moved the anchor point. So we are ready to animate the movement of this top of the letter K breaking away. We've got to find the place in the timeline where we want that to happen. I think that'd be a good place right there. So we will set a position keyframe and a rotation keyframe. And now we're just going to move out to where we want that action to end. So maybe for me, a little bit after the 3-second mark. And so I'm just going to adjust the position. And the rotation. And so right now it just drops straight down, which, could be fine. Nothing wrong with that. But if you want to arc that path out, then you'll have to convert those vertices to curved ones. All right. So now let's see what we have. Now you can do this same thing with images too. So this isn't just exclusive to type. But I just thought it was kind of a fun way to kind of squeeze in learning about masks. So it's 2:41. We don't have a whole lot of time to get into anything else. Next week we're going to continue to look at different ways to animate type. So I'm going to show you guys some other really cool tools and features. But for now, you guys just practice this over the weekend if you get a chance. I'll get the video uploaded later today. And, you don't even have to, just if you just want to solely focus on the math part of it, just practice with a shape. It doesn't necessarily have to be type. I like the idea of type because it requires us to consider each and every character, and it adds some repetition to the demonstration, so that you can practice those steps over and over and over. But you can practice on a photo. It doesn't matter.
Like, on the assignment instructions, can you go over kind of like what you mean by the 3 different compositions?
Yeah, so for this assignment, you are going to create 3 little vignettes, different vignettes. Let me see if I have an example. I have one. Let me find it really quick, and I'll just show you.